Every event contains a small signal that often leads to a critical clue. Welcome back to Small Signal Critical Clue. Today's signal is hiding inside two numbers, sitting on a negotiation table right now, numbers that most people are overlooking. Those numbers are 20 and 5, and if I'm reading them correctly, they might be telling us something very important, that the Iran war could be closer to ending than anyone realizes. Let's dig in. Right now, the most consequential geopolitical issue in the world is the Iran war, not just for the Middle East, for global markets, for energy prices, for U.S. foreign policy, and for the legacy of the Trump administration. And when we talk about what matters most in this war, the real question isn't who is winning on the battlefield. The real question is how soon does it end? That's where today's small signal comes in. Two specific numbers have landed on the negotiation table. Trump is demanding a 20-year suspension of uranium enrichment. Iran has countered with a 5-year suspension, with a possible additional 5 years if certain conditions are met. 20 versus 5 plus 5. At first glance, that gap looks enormous, almost unbridgeable. But I believe these numbers are not a sign of deadlock. I think they are a signal that both sides want a deal and want it soon. Here's why. Let's start with Trump's demand a 20-year ban on enrichment. To understand this number, you have to understand Trump's negotiation style. He never opens with what he actually wants. He opens with something uncomfortable, something that forces the other side to react. Then he moves toward the middle, but always with conditions attached. So the first question is why 20 and not 5, 10, or even 30? If Trump had demanded only 5 years, there's no room to negotiate. His own presidency ends in less than 4 years. A 5-year deal would expire almost immediately after he leaves office. That's not a legacy, that's a footnote. There's no space to compromise downward from 5 without losing the deal entirely. What about 30 years? If Trump had demanded 30, that signals something very different. It signals that he's not in a hurry to make a deal. When you demand something so extreme that no counterpart can ever accept it, you're not really negotiating. You're posturing. But Trump didn't demand 30, he demanded 20. And that is the signal. 20 is big enough to be intimidating, big enough to show strength. But it's not so extreme that it kills the possibility of a deal. It leaves room. It invites a counteroffer. And that tells us Trump wants to close this, and close it soon. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The number 20 isn't just a negotiation buffer. I think it carries two deeper meanings. The first is personal. Donald Trump is 80 years old. A 20-year peace deal is, realistically, his remaining lifetime. Think about what that means. He's not just negotiating for his presidency, he's negotiating for his legacy. He wants the peace he achieved to last as long as he lives. He wants to look back years from now and say, I ended it, and it held. No U.S. president has ever attempted a decisive military resolution of the Iran nuclear issue, because the risk of catastrophic escalation was always too great. Trump took that risk, and now the 20-year number tells us he wants the world to remember it. That number carries his courage, his ambition, and yes, his age. The second meaning is about perception. A 10-year ban sounds temporary. A 20-year ban sounds like, well, it sounds like forever to most people. If Iran accepts anything close to 20 years, Trump can stand in front of the cameras and declare a decisive, historic victory. 10 years doesn't have that psychological weight. 20 does. So when I look at Trump's 20-year demand, I see 3 critical clues. 1, he is willing to make a deal as soon as possible, because he didn't ask for too much. 2, he has already signaled where the midpoint might be with the right conditions attached. 3, he believes that any peace deal that outlasts his presidency is a win he can call decisive. That is not the behavior of someone who wants this war to drag on. Now let's flip to Iran's side. Iran countered with 5 years plus a possible 5-year extension, if mutually agreed conditions are met. At first glance, 55 sounds like a rejection of Trump's position. But read it more carefully, and I think it's actually a very deliberate signal. Signal number 1, Iran has accepted the premise. Iran's offer does not say we reject the idea of suspending enrichment. It says we will suspend enrichment, let's negotiate the terms. That is a fundamental concession. Iran has acknowledged that suspension is a must-have condition to end this war. That is a significant move. Signal number 2, Iran is offering Trump his presidency, fully covered. 5 years gets Trump through his term. And the additional 5 years, if conditions are met, takes us to a full decade. 10 years of peace. 10 years of no Iranian nuclear enrichment. If that deal materializes, Trump doesn't just get a ceasefire. He potentially gets a Nobel Peace Prize. That's not just my imagination, that's the kind of outcome. Iran may be quietly dangling in front of him. Signal number 3, Iran is telling us the real negotiation range. When I look at 55, I don't see Iran's final answer. I see Iran drawing a line at 10 years as the realistic floor. With conditions attached, of course. Political security guarantees, economic concessions, sanctions relief. Those terms will matter enormously. But the gap between Trump's 20 and Iran's 55 may not be as wide as it looks. The real conversation is probably happening somewhere between 10 and 15 years, with conditions doing a lot of the heavy lifting on both sides. That is the zone where a deal gets made. So where does this leave us? I want to close with 3 questions, the ones I think matter most right now. Question 1. When is the potential D-Day? Based on the negotiation dynamics I'm reading, my best estimate is somewhere between the first week of May and before Trump's scheduled meeting with Xi Jinping. Both sides have incentives to move quickly. Trump wants momentum. Iran wants relief. And neither side benefits from letting this drag into summer. Watch that window carefully. Question 2. How will the U.S. stock market react when a deal is reached? This one is genuinely uncertain. Markets have been rallying recently, and part of that bullish momentum may already be pricing in a war-ending scenario. If investors have already bet on peace, a deal announcement might produce a smaller spike than expected, or even a sell-the-news reaction. On the other hand, a truly decisive deal, a 15 or 20-year agreement, might trigger a relief rally that surprises even the optimists. I don't have a firm answer here, but it's a question worth forming. Your own view on before the announcement, not after. Question 3. What small signals should we watch as negotiations continue? Here's what I'll be tracking: the language used by both sides in public statements. Specifically, whether they start signaling flexibility, watch for back-channel diplomatic activity, watch for any shift in Iranian state media tone, and watch whether Trump starts floating trial balloons about what a great deal might look like. Small signals. Critical clues. I share these views to spark your own insights, not to provide a final conclusion or financial guidance. Always conduct your own research before making financial moves. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into the critical clues, hit the subscribe and like button to support the channel. Stay curious and keep hunting for those small signals. See you in the next video!